Let's begin by going to the main menu and click on Docs. Then go to the far right and click on the blue button labeled New. And for this video, we're going to focus on the passage list. So locate Passage List in the menu and click it. Now, the purpose of the passage list is for you to be able to store Bible cross-references. This can be real helpful for your own personal devotion, that is memorizing Bible verses, or may be helpful in organizing verses around topics that you can study. Or even if you're a pastor or a Bible counselor, you can begin to organize verses around topics that you can give to people to help them study and memorize and grow in God's Word. Now, let's begin first by labeling this particular passage list. We do that by clicking on the pencil icon or clicking on the name itself. I'm going to click on the name itself. Once it's highlighted, we can begin to immediately type in a name. Let's just call this Passage List Training. Now, let's walk through the interface so you understand what options you have. First, at the top left, you have the Add button. If you click it, you can see that you can add passages directly from the Bible. So if we type in John 3:16, Logos will confirm that with the menu list below. We click it. It has now been added to our list. By the way, you can also add it with the reference box right below. So if we type in Ephesians 2:8 through 9, once again, we get the menu to confirm what we've entered. Click that menu, and now Ephesians 2:8 and 9 has been added. Now, you should know that there's a hidden feature. If you right-click on any verse, you'll see you have an option to insert heading. Let's go ahead and click Insert Heading. And now we can put in a title to organize our Bible cross-references. If we were to right-click on Ephesians 2:8 and 9 and choose Insert Heading, we could give another heading. Now we've added labels. Let me make you aware that you can also drag and drop. So we can left-click on John 3:16, and we can move that down in the list. Notice the little line there. And there we go. We can do the same thing with the title. Just float your mouse, look for that gray section, left-click on it, and now you can drag and drop. So it's always good to kind of drag and drop on that gray shaded area. So those are the two ways to add verses, but there's actually more ways to do that. So let's click on the Add button again. You'll notice that we have a URL. This is a powerful feature. So if you come to a website and they have Bible passages, you can extract those passages from a website. A website that I know has lots of Bible cross-references is the Grace to You website. So let's put in http://www.gty.org. Then click the white triangle in the circle. Logos will go to that website, tell you that it's importing, and then when it's finished, it'll say imported one references. In this case, it imported 2 Corinthians 5:21. Now, here's the catch. That website has to properly annotate its Bible verses. They have to put in the book name, chapter, verse. If they use abbreviations, depending on the abbreviation, Logos may or may not recognize it. If they do John 3:16, comma, verse 17, that may work. But if they do, let's say, verse 19, just V19, Logos may or may not recognize that. So you may have to go back and see if it missed any passages. But those websites that put the full book name, chapter, and verse, you're good to go. So this is a real handy feature to be able to extract key verses from blog articles, etc. Let's click Add once again. Now you notice we have some additional options here. Select a text, another passage list, a file, and a clipboard. Let's demonstrate how this works. I'm going to go ahead and open up a commentary, the Bible Knowledge Commentary. I have a link here on my shortcut toolbar. Here we have a commentary, very typical, where you're going to get some information, and we're going to select a paragraph. Now you can see there's quite a few cross-references in this selected text. Let's click Add, and then choose Selected Text. As you can see, every verse in this section will be brought over, even the large chapters. So be careful if you're doing that, because that's going to take up a lot of space. But nevertheless, with Logos, if it's highlighted as a hyperlink to a Bible verse, Logos will be able to easily identify it and bring it over into your passage list. Now, let's say you're doing this and you go, oh man, I didn't want to do that. You can press on a PC Control-Z or on a Mac Command-Z, and you can undo what you've just done. Very handy feature. Let's click Add again, and let's do another passage list. Let's click that option. Now, this only works if you have 2 or more passage lists, which I do. So I'm going to choose 1 Corinthians 15 key verses. You can choose anything you want from your library. Notice right away, there's all the passages. You can begin to combine other cross-references from other passage lists. Again, I'm going to press Control-Z on the PC, Command-Z on the Mac to undo that. Let's click Add again, and let's choose a file. Now, this is very important. You'll notice here that the only option we have is a text file. So if you have exported or if you've downloaded a Word document or anything like that, you're going to need to copy and paste from that into a .txt file. Both Mac and PCs have text files. For Windows, it's the Notepad. And so all you do is navigate to the file and open it up. We're not going to demonstrate that. No need to. You get the concept. Let me go ahead and click Cancel. Let's click Add one more time and the clipboard. Now, the way this works is, let's say you select a verse range. We're going to choose this one right here. And we just right-click, choose the reference, Isaiah 52, 13 through 53, 12. And I'm going to choose Copy Styled, okay? Or even Copy Reference Text, doesn't matter. Once you've copied it into the computer's clipboard, then you can click Add, and then you can choose Clipboard. And there's the information. Now, to delete a passage from the passage list, just float your mouse over to the right, and you'll see the X inside the red circle. Click that, and that will remove that individual passage. Now, you'll notice also at the top, we have some other options. We can list, we can memorize, we can have full and compact view. Currently, we're in full view because it's in black. If we want to see the compact view, just click Compact, and notice that the headings remain, but we lose all the verse text. Now, why is this important? If you're trying to disciple another person or help them memorize, you could create your passage list, click on Compact, then go to the 3 vertical dots, the stoplight menu, and print and export this. You can then print it out without the verse text and have them write in the information. This is a great tool for helping people memorize Scripture and study Scripture. Let's click the X at the top right to close this window, and then let's click Full to return to our full view. Now, currently, we're in List View. Let's click Memorize. Now, Memorize is a great way for you to grow in your knowledge of Scriptures. This helps in evangelism and also in your sanctification and how you grow, because if you memorize God's Word, put in your heart, that'll be there to remind you to stay obedient to God and His Word. Now, notice we have several options here. We have Practice, and if we click on that, we can go into quiz mode. Then we can choose the Bible translation. This is a wonderful feature. So you can bring in verses from a variety of Bibles, but you can choose which Bible translation you want to memorize. I love that feature. You can also choose to hide whole words or hide all but the first letters. This is just a way of helping you memorize. A single letter may prompt you more easily. And then we have random order or progressive order. If you really want to grow in your knowledge, random order is a more effective way to memorize, but progressive order is a little bit faster. My advice, do progressive at first so you're comfortable. Once you're successful with progressive, then move to random order for the final testing. Now, the 2 triangles represent the ability to navigate with the various verses. So right now we have Ephesians 2:8. If we click the triangle, it's Ephesians 2:9. There's 2 Corinthians 5:21. So we can jump to each verse in our list to memorize. Now, interestingly, John 3:16 is what's in bold here, for God so loved the world. But they give you the previous context, which I think is pretty handy. Now, notice you also can share this list. So if you've got individuals that you want to practice with, you can share this, but they must be other Logos users in a Faith Life group in order to share that. And we'll show you how to do that in other training videos as well. But you simply click Share, and then you can choose to share it publicly for any Logos user, or you can target a specific group. We've seen this before in other training videos. Let's click X to close. Now let's take a quick peek at quizzing. Therefore, go to the top left here, click on Practice, and then choose Quiz. Now it says Quiz, and then you choose your translation. Notice the button at the bottom that says Start Quiz. Let's click it. Now we can get a chance to try to remember this passage. Now, if you hit spacebar, it'll put in the words. In other words, if you don't know what the word is, click the spacebar and Logos will help you. Now, if we type in a letter and hit spacebar, it'll tell us if it was right or wrong. Notice how the words were red, telling us it was wrong, and then it gave us the correct answer. Not of works. We'll put in works this time, hit spacebar. Notice the black stayed. That's to let us know visually we got the word right. Notice at the bottom it tells us how many verses we are memorizing, and notice that we can exit the quiz here. If you want to go back to practice mode, you have to click exit quiz first. Then you can click quiz and choose practice. Lastly, we can click the start practice button. Notice that it gives us several of the words from the verse to guide us. Now, as we do this more and more, we'll get fewer and fewer word helps. Now, how do you move through this list? Well, you can hit tab, that'll work, or you can hit spacebar. So just be aware that both tab and space work. So here we have for God so loved the world, that, and hit tab or space. That he gave, let's type in own and spell it wrong. Notice it's in red and then it grays it. All right, so pretty straightforward. And again, you can change the options here at the top. Let's click exit practice. Let's return to our list view by clicking list. So that exhausts our add button. Let's click on the merge button. Now this is a very powerful feature. If you start to get multiple lists and you want to consolidate them, this is the tool to do it. And this can be very helpful. So let's say you're focusing on one topic and you're creating one passage list, and you're focusing on a second topic, and now you want to combine them, or you want to interact with these passages. This can be very, very powerful and fun. So what I'm going to do for this demonstration is I'm going to close down the Bible Knowledge Commentary, and we're going to open up another passage list. So let's click on Docs, then click on New, and then click on Passage List. Now this one we're going to call the Merge List, just for keeping things simple, and press Enter. Now what I'm going to do in this list is I'm going to put in John 3:16. That is a verse from our other passage list. And then I'm going to put a passage that is not in the other list. So Romans 8:28. And we'll click and add that. Now let's begin to interact with these two passage lists through the Merge button. So click Merge. Here's our Merge window. Now, you'll notice there's three options, 1, 2, 3. 2 and 3 cannot be enabled until you choose a passage list. So step 1 is really key. Now I'm going to type in our merge list, and there it is. I typed in merge list appears. Now, as soon as I click that list from the menu below, now option 2 is enabled. Now let's walk through each of these to understand how they function. The first one is union. So in theory, what should happen is all the verses in my passage list at the left and all my verses in my passage list at the right will create a new third list, and all of those verses should go in there. So let's test this. Let's click on Union, and sure enough, look at that. In fact, let's drag this to the middle so we can see everything all at once. And sure enough, we've got Ephesians 2:8-9, John 3:16, 2 Corinthians 5:21 from the left list, and over at the right we have John 3:16, which we already had from the list 1, but we have Romans 8:28. Notice no duplicates, but it combines what was unique in both lists. Very powerful. Notice that it created a new passage list. So your old lists are untouched and protected. Very key. Let's click the X to close down our union of passage list. Now let's repeat this again with a different merge. We'll click Merge once again. We'll type in Merge to get our merge list. Now notice that we got both lists here. Be aware that you cannot delete the list from within here. You have to go back to Docs to delete that list. Let's go to Merge List once again, click it, and this time let's choose Intersection. But before we do so, let's look at the graphic. What it's saying is an intersection, an item appearing in both lists. So the only verse that appears in both lists at this point in time is John 3:16. So this should create a third list with John 3:16. I press the button. Let's take a look at that list. Here's our intersection, and sure enough, it's John 3:16. Very cool. Let's click the X to close that window down. And by the way, a little shortcut here. Our two windows are not evenly distributed. If we double-click between the two borders, we'll balance out those two pages. And there we go. Let's go to the third merge. So click merge once again. Once the merge window appears, click in the search box, type in merge. Let's go to the third one. Now this says difference. Remove items in chosen list. This is very key. Notice what's shaded. What's shaded is the list 1. So let's see how this plays out. So we click the link. Let's drag the list and let's take a look. Now on passage list at the left, we had Ephesians 2:8-9, John 3:16, and 2 Corinthians 5:21. So the difference took our initial list at the left, looked at the merge list, and found that John 3:16 existed in both lists. So it removed that from the list and created the third list. So it's 2 Corinthians 5:21, Ephesians 2:8-9. Now, when would you use this? Well, let's say that you're trying to study a topic. And let's say the topic has 2 concepts in it. Let's say it has God and Jesus. So you've got 2 lists, one of God and one of Jesus. And some of those passages may overlap. And what you want to do is eliminate those from the overlap. So by running this intersection, you can essentially take list 1 and eliminate any passages that we know are about Jesus Christ. This can be a really powerful way to compare lists. So let's go ahead and close this window, and let's do our last merge. Let's click on merge. Once the merge window appears, click in the search box, type in merge. Let's choose from the list merge, and then let's choose at the right under number 2, the last option, symmetric difference. Items on either list, but not both. Let's click and see the results. Now I'm going to drag it to the center so we can compare. Notice the list at the left, Ephesians 2:8-9, John 3:16, and 2 Corinthians 5:21. At the right, we've got John 3:16 and Romans 8:28. Because John 3:16 was in both lists, it excluded that from our list and only gave us the unique verses combined from both lists. This can be really powerful in eliminating duplicates or overlap. Let's go ahead and click on the X to close this window. And let's close our merge list down by clicking on the X. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Bible Knowledge Commentary by left-clicking and dragging the shortcut to the right. Notice I'm shading only the far right side. Now, there's a couple of features you should be aware of. This is really cool. 2 really neat features. Number 1, if you see a verse in any book, you can left-click on the verse and drag and drop that verse right onto the passage list. You can see the line there. So you don't have to select the text and click add or select the text and copy and paste and do those extra steps. Drag and drop works wonderfully. The last one is kind of important, and you need to be aware of how to do this. Now, for doing small sections of selected text, it's a piece of cake. You select the text as I've done here. But once you start selecting many more passages, you can run into some problems. But I think a more convenient way is simply to click on the 3 vertical dots, the stoplight menu, go to Print Export. Once the Print Export window opens up, over at the left, you want to use the sections to select what you want to copy and paste. So here, I'm just going to select several checkboxes. And let's say this represents all the passages I want to copy and paste. Now that I've got them selected through the Print Export window, I can click Copy to Clipboard. Once Logos has finished copying, I can close the window at the top right, and then I can go to Add and choose from Clipboard. And there's all the passages. I have found this to be the easiest way to copy lots of Bible passages from a large amount of text. We have a lot of passages in our passage list. Logos tells you how many passages by right here, 19. Now, there's a couple other options you need to be aware of. We have the Open All button. Let's click that. Now, when you click Open All, what it's going to do is open up your preferred Bible, and it's going to generate a filter. You can even see the description right here, filter by passage, and then it names it Passage List Training, which is the name of your passage list. Now you can see the verses in the full context. And if we use the vertical scroll bar at the right, we can go all the way to the beginning. Now, what's interesting here is how Logos sorts it. It automatically put it in canonical or biblical order. So Genesis 12:2, Genesis 15:5, etc. So now you can scroll down and see all the passages. This can be pretty handy when you want to look at your verse and jump to it. By the way, you can click the gray shaded area and that'll open up a new version of the Bible, taking you right to the context. I'll close that window. And you can also click the Bible verse there in the passage list as well, and that reference will open up the Bible as well. Let's click the X to close that. Now, I do want to show the sort option this time. Notice we've got our label, salvation, Ephesians 2:8-9. We have favorite verse, John 3:16, 2 Corinthians. We got all these passages under this label. I'm going to go to the bottom and add one more label. I'm going to right-click on the very last passage. I'm going to choose Insert Heading, and I'm going to put Hosea. Now, let's go to the top, and let's click Sort and see what happens. This is interesting. Within the labels, the sorting took place. Since there was only one verse under salvation, we've got no change. But under favorite verses, look at all the changes. It's now sorting that in canonical order or biblical order. And then Hosea stayed the same. So sorting with labels will sort all the verses under that label. And I think that's pretty handy. Now, again, you can click the three vertical dots. You can export this. You can share. We have a couple other options we haven't examined. Let's click Save as Sermon. Now, this is pretty cool because what it's going to do is it's going to take all the verses, export them, and open up a new untitled sermon document. And it's going to put in your headings. You can see those there. These are set up as heading 2. And all the verses are placed in there. So we get a heading slide and a verse slide. That is really, really handy. So what's the advantage of this? Well, think about it. If you're a person who uses PowerPoint in your biblical teaching and preaching, you could create your sermon manuscript in a Word doc. You can then select it, copy it to the clipboard. You can then move all those verses from your sermon into a passage list, and you can hand out that passage list. You could also generate instantly PowerPoint slides and give that to your media AV department. So again, it's just helping you save time depending on your particular need. Let's go ahead and click X to close this document. Let's once again click the three dots, and let's take a look at Save as Word List menu option. Now, what LearnLogos is going to do is going to take the passages from your passage list, find all the words in those passages, find the underlying Hebrew and Greek words, and generate a list for you to memorize. It gives us the count, shows us the Hebrew word, the lemma, and the gloss. As you can see, this is quite a few verses, and since we had Old and New Testament, we're going to see Hebrew and Greek. So if you're trying to memorize vocabulary for a book, this is one way to do it from your passage list. Let's go ahead and click and close the untitled word list by clicking on the X on the tab located here. So as you can see, the passage list is a very powerful tool. In closing, I primarily use the passage list to organize verses around a topic. That's my main purpose. And this is a wonderful way to grow in your knowledge of key passages for key topics.